Hello from Halifax. This is Jo with Jo to the World Creations, and today we're going to be making my winter hat crochet pattern. I'm really excited to share this crochet hat with you, and we're going to get right to the video tutorial. All the details and the written instructions are available for free on my website, or you can purchase the ad-free print-ready PDF, and there are links to both in the description below this video. All right, let's get started. For this video tutorial, I'll be using Impeccable by Loops and Threads in the color Rich Orchid, and I'll be using one skein of this and an H hook. We're going to start by making a magic circle, and there's lots of different ways to do this, so you can use your favorite method. What I like to do is hold the yarn so the end is facing me here, and I wrap the yarn into an X around my fingers. I'm just gonna make it clear so you can see. I insert my hook under the first strand, the strand that's closest to my nails, and then I hook the second one and bring it under the first one. Now I twist up my yarn and I pick up that second strand and I bring it through the loop that's on my hook. And now I've created a magic circle. To start round one, we're going to chain one and make 11 double crochet stitches into this magic circle. So I'm going to make my first one here. And then you can put me on pause and come back when we have 11 double crochet stitches made in the magic circle. With 11 double crochet stitches now completed, I'm going to pull the tail of the magic circle to pull that magic circle tight. I'll insert my hook back into the loop, and we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first single or double crochet stitch that we made. So not into the chains, we're going to work into the top of the first double crochet stitch that we made and slip stitch to join. Now we're going to start round two. We're going to chain two. For this round, we are going to be working around the posts of the stitches. Normally when we're crocheting, we insert our hook into the top of the stitches under both loops. But for this pattern, we are going to be working around the post, which means we're going to insert our hook from the front to the back, so front to back, and then we actually put our hook like this, so it comes from the front to the back, and our stitch pops out a little bit right here. And then we're going to work around that front post. For this round, we're not going to be working around the chains from the previous round. So you want to make sure to not work around where the chains are. You want to work around that first stitch, which is this stitch right here. We're going to be making 2 front post double crochet stitches around every stitch. I'm going to show you exactly how to do this. So we're going to yarn over, insert our hook around the post of the first stitch. So my hook's gone in from the front to the back, and now it's coming out from the back like that. So the stitch is popping out. Now I yarn over and I double crochet normally. I pull through a loop, 3 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull my yarn through, 2 loops on my hook, yarn over, pull my yarn through the remaining 2 loops. And that's my first front post double crochet made. Now we're going to do that exactly the same around the same stitch. We're going to yarn over, insert a hook around that stitch, yarn over, pull through a loop, 3 loops on our hook, and now just double crochet as we normally would. So we've made 2 front post double crochet stitches around that first stitch. And now we're going to do that around each stitch. We're going to make 2 front post double crochet stitches around each stitch. So working around the next stitch, we just front post double crochet once, and we're going to do it one more time. So you go ahead, put me on pause, complete 2 front post double crochet stitches all the way around, and come back to the video. After making 2 front post double crochet stitches in each stitch around, you should have a total of 22 stitches. The chains that we made at the beginning of the round do not count as stitches. To finish the round, we are going to slip stitch into the top of the first front post double crochet stitch that we made. We're not going to ever work into the chains. So in the top of that first stitch, we are going to slip stitch. And that completes round 2. And I'll just show you the back of the work here. To start round 3, we're going to chain 2, and I didn't mention this at the start of round 2, but I hope you've followed along with the video, that we are never going to turn at the end of any round. So for the first stitch that we're going to work in is going to be our very first front post double crochet stitch from the previous round. The chain 2 that we made from the previous round, we are not going to work into this one in round 3. So we're going to make 2 front post double crochet stitches around that first front post double crochet stitch from the previous round. So we're going to yarn over, skipping over the chains, we don't do anything there, and insert our hook from front to back, yarn over, and double crochet normally. And we're going to make 2 of those around the same stitch. So we've just made our first and now our second. Around the next stitch, we're just going to make 1 front post double crochet. So we're going to work around that post and make 1 front post double crochet stitch in that next stitch, and then we're going to repeat. Make 2 front post double crochet stitches around the next stitch, make 1 front post double crochet stitch around the next. So 2, 1, 2, 1 all the way around. So you go ahead and do that and come back to the video and we'll do the rest of the round together. So I'm coming up at the end of my round, and I wanted to do the last few stitches with you so you can just easily see what is happening here. So I have 2 stitches left. Around this second last stitch, I'm going to make 2 front post double crochet stitches, and then 1 front post double crochet stitch around the last stitch. Again, I'm leaving these chain 2s completely untouched. If you count your stitches, you should have a total of 33 stitches made. And to complete the round, we're going to join with a slip stitch into the top of the first front post double crochet. So into that first top of the first stitch, slip stitch to join. Throughout the pattern, I provide measurements to ensure that your hat turns out to be the size it's intended to be. And at this point, your hat should be approximately 3.25 inches across. To start round 4, we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. Now we're not going to work around the chain 2 from the previous round. We're going to skip over that, and we are going to make 1 front post double crochet stitch around the front post double crochet stitch from the previous round. So the stitch beside the chain 2, So that's the chain 2, and this is our first stitch that we're going to work around. We're going to make 1 front post double crochet stitch. And there's our 1 front post double crochet stitch now completed. Now for the rest of the stitches, we are going to make 2 front post double crochet stitches around each stitch all the way around. So working around that next stitch, make 1 front post double crochet, and around that same stitch, make another, for a total of 2 front post double crochet stitches around each stitch. So that was our first stitch, and then continue to do the exact same thing, making 2 front post double crochet stitches around each stitch around, and then come back to the video and we'll finish off the round together. So I'm coming up at the end of round 4, and I have 1 stitch left to work around. So this is the last stitch that I'm going to work around, and the thing beside it is the 2 chains from the previous round that I'm not working into or around. So I'm going to make my last 2 front post double crochets around this last front post double crochet from the previous round. So that's 1, and that is 2. The end of this round, you should have a total of 65 stitches all the way around. And as you can see here, it is completely okay for your work to curl. And this is what it looks like on the opposite side. Now that we have to complete round 4, we are going to slip stitch into the top of the first front post double crochet stitch that we made. So into the top, slip stitch to join the round. At the end of round 4, your work should measure approximately 4.25 inches across. To start round 5, we're going to chain 1. Working into the very first stitch, and this round we're going to work into the tops of each stitch. So working into the top of the first stitch, which is attached to the chain, we're going to single crochet. And we're going to single crochet into the tops of the stitch all the way around, into the top of each stitch, I should say. So this is my next single crochet, and in the next stitch, single crochet. And we're just single crocheting in the tops of each stitch. And Charlie's saying hello. So you go ahead and single crochet into each stitch all the way around, and then come back to the video and we'll finish the round together. So I'm coming up at the end of round 5, and I have 2 stitches left to work into. So I wanted to show you what I'm going to do is just single crochet into the last 2 stitches. And at the end of the round, I have a total of 65 single crochet stitches completed. Now to finish and to join, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first single crochet stitch that we made. So, slip stitch. And that completes round 5. To start round 6, we're going to chain 2. 1, 2. For the rest of the pattern, we're no longer going to be making front post double crochet stitches. Instead, we're going to be making front post triple crochet stitches. Some people refer to these stitches as front post treble stitches. I call them front post triple crochet stitches, but they mean the same thing, and I'm going to show you exactly how to do it. So the very first stitch we're going to work around is actually the chain 2 from 2 rounds below. So if you tug your work slightly, you can really tell the difference between a front post double crochet that we made and then the chain 2 that we made. And for the first stitch that we're going to make in this round, it's going to be around the chain 2. Just a reminder, we've chained 2 to start this round, which is round 6. And the first thing we're going to do is front post triple crochet around the chain 2 from 2 rounds below. So to do this, we're going to yarn over twice. We're going to insert our hook from front to back around the chain 2. So it pops out like this. And now we're going to triple crochet normally. And how we triple crochet is by yarning over, pulling up a loop. We have 4 loops on our hook, yarn over, and pull that yarn. We're going to pull that yarn through just these first 2 loops. We now have 3 loops on our hook. We're going to yarn over and pull this yarn through the first 2 loops on our hook. We have 2 loops left. We're going to yarn over and pull that yarn through these 2 loops. And now we've just completed our first front post triple crochet stitch. Next, we're going to skip the first single crochet stitch. The first single crochet stitch is from the row below, and that's the single crochet stitch that's attached to the chain. And it's directly behind the front post triple crochet we just made. So we are not going to work into that stitch, the stitch attached to the chain. We're going to work into the very next single crochet stitch, and we're going to work just normally into that stitch by inserting our hook under the top 2 loops. So skipping that first stitch, working into the next stitch, we're going to make a double crochet stitch into the top of that next single crochet stitch from the previous round. So just make a straightforward double crochet stitch. Next, we are going to skip the next stitch. So we're not going to work into the next stitch in the round, but instead work into the stitch below that stitch. And we are going to make a front post triple crochet around the front post double crochet from 2 rounds below. So you're going to be able to see how these stitches alternate. So you see we made a front post triple crochet, a double crochet. We skip where this front post double crochet is, and we're going to work into the next one. And as you do this round, it's going to get much, much easier. This is the hardest part, so bear with me. So we're skipping the next single crochet stitch in the round and working into around the front post double crochet from 2 rounds below, and we're going to front post triple crochet. So yarn over twice, insert our hook around that stitch, and then triple crochet. We're now going to make a double crochet stitch in the next single crochet stitch. But just remember, we've skipped a stitch. So there's going to be a stitch right behind the front post triple crochet that does not get worked into. So into the next stitch, we're going to double crochet. Now, just like before, we are going to skip the next stitch. We're not working into the top of the next stitch in the round. We're going to work around the front post double crochet from 2 rounds below. So not into the top, around the post of the front post double crochet stitch, inserting our hook from front to back, and we're going to make a front post triple crochet. So I'm going to yarn over twice, insert my hook around that post, and triple crochet. Now working into the next stitch, we're going to double crochet. Just a reminder, there's a skip stitch in between where the last double crochet stitch and where this next double crochet stitch that does not get worked into. So make sure you've skipped a stitch and double crochet into the next stitch. So hopefully now you can see the pattern starting to come together. One question I sometimes get asked is where around this post stitch should you be inserting your hook? Should you be trying to fit your hook under where there's a strand of yarn up here? You can see it there. Should you be inserting your hook into that little small spot? Well, for this pattern, I recommend that you always insert your hook underneath that strand here, so into the larger gap space. So the pattern's going to repeat itself all the way around, doing the exact same thing. So we've just made a double crochet stitch. We're skipping the next stitch and working directly below it and yarning over twice and making a triple crochet under that strand there, so at the base of the post, and then triple crocheting. And then in the next stitch, and always ensure there's a skipped stitch in there, we're going to double crochet. So you go ahead and complete these instructions all the way around, repeating the same thing. We've just double crocheted, we skip the next stitch and work around the post stitch below. You come back to the video when you're almost completed the round and we'll do the rest together. So I'm coming up at the end of round 6. I've just made a front post triple crochet as my last stitch here. So in the next stitch, I'm going to double crochet. And you'll see that I've skipped a stitch in between the 2 double crochet stitches. So now I have 1 stitch left, and I'm not going to work into the top of the stitch. I'm going to skip the top of the stitch and work directly below it and make 1 final front post triple crochet around the post from 2 rounds below. If you count your stitches all the way around, you should have a total of 65 stitches. Just a reminder that these chain 2s that we made, the chain 2 that we made to start the round, does not count as a stitch. To complete the round, we're going to slip stitch into the top of the first front post triple crochet stitch that we made. So working into the top of that one, we slip stitch to complete the round. After finishing round 6, your work should measure approximately 6 inches across. For the rest of the pattern, we're going to be repeating round 5 and then round 6. Round 5, round 6, round 5, round 6. And head on over to the written instructions where you can see the measurements throughout the rest of the hat pattern, and make sure that you're ending after repeating a round 6, not a round 5 repeat. And you're going to do this until you've made a total of 18 rounds. And then come back to the video and we will do the hat ribbing together. I am now nearing the very end of round 18, and I'm going to complete round 18 by making a slip stitch into the top of the first stitch. And now we can start the hat ribbing. We're going to start by chaining 6. And this makes a ribbing that is approximately 1.5 inches away from the hat. But you're welcome to make more or less chains, and that will dictate the height of your ribbing. But I'm going to chain 6. So 1, 2, and it's important to note that I did not fasten off. I just started exactly where I finished round 18 and went directly into chaining 6. Now, if you wanted your ribbing to be a different color than the hat, by all means, you can fasten off and reattach a new color. So I have 6 chains made. Now we're going to work into the second chain from the hook, and into that chain we're going to single crochet. And we're going to single crochet into each stitch all the way down. So just make a simple single crochet all the way down, and you'll have one less stitch than you had for the number of chains you made. So I made 6 chains to start, so I'm going to have a total of 5 single crochet stitches made. Now I'm going to slip stitch into the stitch that's attached to these chains and single crochet stitches. So I'm calling this the ribbing part, and then this is the hat part. And we're going to attach them by making a slip stitch into that very first stitch, the stitch that's attached to the ribbing. So into that first stitch, I'm going to slip stitch. And then into the next stitch, I'm going to slip stitch. Now we're going to work on the ribbing up part of this section in the pattern. So to start the ribbing up, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're not going to work into the chain and the 2 slip stitches that we made. So just to show you exactly what I mean here. So we just chained 1 and turned. So we're not going to work into that chain 1. And then we made 2 slip stitches to attach the ribbing to the hat. These 2 slip stitches, we're going to skip those as well. And we're going to work directly into the single crochet stitches that we made. And when working into these single crochet stitches, we're going to be working into the back loops only of each of these single crochet stitches. So these are the loops that are furthest away from us, and we're going to single crochet into each of these all the way up. So skip the chain 1, skip the 2 slip stitches, and working into the back loop only of the first single crochet stitch, single crochet. Working into the next single crochet stitch, single crochet. The next one, back loop only, single crochet, and all the way up. Now this, I'm on my second last stitch here, but the last stitch can get really small and hard to see. So make sure that you're counting your stitches so that you don't forget and don't miss this last single crochet stitch that we're going to single crochet into the back loop only. And that completes the ribbing up. Now we're going to do the ribbing down. To start that, we're going to chain 1 and turn. Now we're going to not work into the chain 1 that we just completed. We're once again only going to work into the single crochet stitches. And again, we're going to work into the back loops only, which are the loops furthest away from us. So inserting your hook under the back loop only, we're going to single crochet all the way down. So skipping over the chain 1, working into the back loop only, single crochet. So that's 1. We're going to do this 5 times, or however many number of stitches you have. So there's 2. And just count your stitches because the last stitch can be tricky to see. So that's 3, 4, and 5. So now we've made 5 single crochet stitches into the back loops only all the way down. We're next going to slip stitch to attach the ribbing to the hat, but for the rest of the pattern, we are not going to work into the stitch that's attached to the ribbing. We're not working into that stitch ever again. We're always going to work into the next stitch. So the stitch that's not attached to the ribbing, the very next stitch, we're going to work into both loops, inserting our hook into that next stitch and slip stitching. So not working into the stitch that's attached to the ribbing, but the very next stitch, inserting our hook, both loops, and slip stitch. And we're going to do that exact same thing in the next stitch. So we have 2 slip stitches made. So the rest of the ribbing is just repeating ribbing up and ribbing down, and we'll do it one more time. So to start ribbing up, we chain 1 and turn, skip the chain, skip the 2 slip stitches, working into the back loop only, single crochet all the way up. After our 5 single crochet stitches are complete, we are going to start the ribbing down, which is chain 1, turn, skipping the chain 1, working into the back loop only, single crochet all the way down. Remember to count your stitches. This is 4 and this is 5. And then we're going to slip stitch, but not work into that first stitch. Just want to make sure you can see this here. We're not working into that first stitch. Into the next stitch, we're going to slip stitch, and into the very next stitch, slip stitch as well. So you go ahead and repeat this all the way around the hat. When you have 1 or 2 slip stitches left to go, it doesn't matter whether you have 1 or 2 left, come back to the video and we will assemble the 2 sides and finish the hat ribbing together. So I've just made 5 single crochet stitches going down, and I'm on my last slip stitch to make. So I only have 1 stitch left to slip stitch into, but if you have 2, that's absolutely okay. And just a reminder, we never work into the stitch that's attached to the ribbing. So as you can see here, I have 1 stitch left to slip stitch into, and I'm going to do that now. But if you have 2, make your 2 slip stitches. Now I'm going to take my yarn and my hook and I'm going to move it to the back. So I'm pushing it further away from me. And I'm going to take the 2 ends and I'm going to close them like I'm closing a book. So the yarn and hook is at the back and I'm closing the 2 ends like a book. Now I'm just going to shift my work so it's easier to see, and I'm working along the back, so really in the inside of the hat when I join these 2 sides together. Now I'm going to line up the stitches and I'm going to insert my hook under the last single crochet stitch that we made, and I'm going to insert my hook under both loops. And I'm going to find the corresponding stitch on the starting side and insert my hook under both loops of that stitch as well. Now I'm just going to yarn over and pull through that yarn and slip stitch. And we're going to make a total of 5 slip stitches all the way up. And so that was my first slip stitch. So working into the next stitch under both loops, find the matching corresponding stitch on the other side under both loops and slip stitch. That's 2. We just do this all the way up and slip stitch the 2 sides together. The very last stitch can be a little tricky, so you just want to make sure you're working into the tops of both stitches and slip stitch. So this is what it looks like from in the inside of your work and from the outside. Now you can take a pair of scissors and fasten off, leaving a long tail. And with a yarn needle, I'll just finish fastening off for you here. So I pull my yarn that I just cut through that last loop and pull tight. Now with my yarn needle, I'm going to weave in all my loose ends. So the last step is to make a pom-pom, and you can use your favorite pom-pom making method, and I'll quickly show you what I've done that you can easily follow along with. So to make a pom-pom, I'm using the cardboard method. I'm not sure if that's the exact name, but that's how I'm calling it. So I've taken a piece of cardboard, and the thicker the better, and that is 6 inches long and 4 inches high. And I've cut a slit approximately 2 inches up. That's 4 inches long and about 0.25 inches high. Now, because I'm wrapping my yarn around and around, I find that this cardboard gets really squished. So if you don't have a thick piece of cardboard, another option is to take a second piece of cardboard that's exactly the same and tape them together just so that your cardboard is more secure. So now I'm going to take my yarn and put it on top of my piece of cardboard, and I'm going to leave about a 12-inch tail. Now I'm going to wrap my yarn from the top around the bottom, like this, approximately 100 times. And I'm going to keep wrapping, and it's going to be a big pile, but I'm never going to let the wrapped yarn go past the opening of the slit. So I'm going to keep everything over in the middle, going around and around. So come back to the video when you have 100 wraps around your cardboard, and we'll do the rest together. So I've now wrapped my yarn around my piece of cardboard approximately 100 times. Now I'm going to take the yarn that's attached to the skein, and I'm going to cut it, and I'm going to leave an approximate 24-inch tail, so a nice long tail. Now I'm going to take that long tail, and right now it's at the bottom, so I'm going to pick it up, and I'm going to put it through the opening of the slit and then pull it in the back. Now I'm going to wrap this tail around the wrap yarn, going through the slit. I'm going to do this a few times. So wrapping this tail around the pom-pom horizontally, going through the slit a few times. Now I'm going to take the starting tail and pull it up, and now I'm going to tie the two ends together. Making it nice and tight. Now we can slide the pom-pom off the cardboard, or I should say it's the wrapped yarn at this point. So you go ahead and slide that off the cardboard. Now I'm going to flip it over because the ties that we just made, or the knots we just made, are facing us. So now I'm going to flip it over, and using the ends, tie them again. Nice and tight. Now I'm going to take my scissors and insert my scissors into all the loops and simply cut the loops. So inserting our scissors and simply cut all the loops. And it's okay if you miss some, you can always go back, but we're leaving the tails as they are. We're not cutting the tails, just the loops. So then go back around and see if there's any other loops that you've missed. And now you have a pom-pom. It creates a little bit of a mess there. And you're welcome to go around and trim the ends if you'd like, so that they're as even as can be. And then we're going to use the longest end, whatever's longest at this point, and you can cut the shorter end so that it matches the length of the pom-pom strands. And then using the longest end you have, we're going to get our yarn needle and attach it to the top of the hat. And I have no special way of doing this other than inserting my yarn needle right through the middle and going back and forth around the pom-pom as best I can to attach it tightly to the top of the hat. So just taking my yarn needle, I'm going right through the middle and pulling that yarn through and attaching it to the top of the hat. And I'm just going to go from the inside back through the middle of the pom-pom, come out wherever I come out, and find another middle place and go right back through the center of the hat. And I'm just going to do this several times until I find that the pom-pom is nice and secure onto the hat. And then I'm going to weave in this loose end, and now I have a brand new hat with a pom-pom. If you're not happy with your way your pom-pom looks, you can buy this really cool tool that is a pom-pom maker. And it creates, I would just say, a much smoother and thicker pom-pom that you can use. But if you don't have a pom-pom maker yet, you can definitely use the cardboard making method. Thank you so much for watching this video. I hope you enjoyed learning how to make this hat, and I really appreciate you watching. Have a wonderful day.